Okay, good morning, everyone. We are going to pick up on the Gemara on Ayin Beis Amud Beis, 72b.
Yeah.
We have a lot to cover, so we'll do it quickly. And encourage everyone to always chazer. So, we had a discussion in the Mishnah about whether a fetus which sticks out its limb and then the mother is shechted, so whether the limb and then therefore the fetus, again, because then the limb sticks out, the mother is shechted, and then you pull off the limb. So now the question is, what's the status of that limb that was sticking out at the time that the mother was shechted? Either the limb is Availa, Avia Minify, Tomba d'oraisa, therefore the flesh that it now touches when it's separated makes it into Availa as well. Or according to the Chachamim, the limb was a treifa, even though it was sticking out of the mother at the time that the mother was shechted, it's still going to be considered to be a treifa, even though you can't eat it. Again, the limb that's sticking out you definitely can't eat. The question is, do we then treat that limb als the mother's Schita? If you pull it off at that point, it's Avia Minachai for sure, which is like Nabila. We'll see there's a little bit of difference between Avia Minachai and Nabila, but for all intents and purposes, the Touma of Nabila and Touma of Avia Minachai, if you pull a limb off of a live animal or you take a dead animal and touch it, it's going to be the same Touma. We'll see again, we'll clarify that a little bit, but it's either the Touma of Avia Minachai, which is on a higher level. That's if you pull it off a live animal, but here, if there's a protruding limb and then you pull it off after the mother was shechted, according to the Rebbe Meir, it's still going to be Avia Minachai, because again, it was out when you shechted the mother, so it's not going to be, definitely can't be eaten, but it's not even going to be considered to be like a treifa. And according to Chachamim saying, no, even though it's protruding and it can't be eaten now, it's still going to be saved from the Touma of Navela, and we're going to treat it as the Touma of treifa, which is not really Touma for our purposes. Says the Gemara, however, all agree that, again, when you're shechting this limb, when you're cutting off this limb, there's some type of something passing from the limb to the animal. Again, you shechted the mother, the animal comes out, now you cut off the limb because, for whatever reason, the limb has to come off, so you cut off the limb. Whether it's passing on Tomba d'oraisa of Navela / Avia Minachai, or it's passing on Tomba d'Rabbanan at most of Tuma's treifa, everybody agrees that this arm is passing something on to the animal. That clearly is happening underneath the surface of the animal. We said yesterday that Tumah Beis Hastarim is not really a Tumah. So why is Tumah Beis Hastarim a Tumah? It seems to prove that if you have Tumah that's underneath the surface, it actually passes through in the molecules, in the cells, whatever. So we're on Ayin Beis Amud Beis in the Gemara. Amai. According to Rebbe Meir and the Chachamim, whether you say that the separated limb, which then passes on whatever its status is to the fetus, is going to be Avia Minachai / Navela, or whether you say it's going to be treifa, which is only Tomba d'Rabbanan, Amai, Tumas Beis Hastarim, even Tumas Beis Hastarim lo Mitama. We know that Tumah that's concealed should not be Mitame. So why is it passing from the limb into the rest of the animal? Lema Rebbe Meir l'tamei, it must be within Rebbe Meir. Did nan shlosha shenechlak tahor min medres aval tamei maga medres div Rebbe Meir. Rabbi Yossi v'chi be'ez medres nagazeh ela shim nagabo zav sheyetamei maga zav. However, what do you see from here? So we said yesterday, this is where we stopped. You have a garment that's 3 by 3, right? This garment is 3 by 3. Let's say this one. There's 3 different sizes here. This garment is a little. This one's in between. So this garment is 3 by 3 tvachim, right? So if a zav touches it, what happens? It becomes maga medris, which is a rishon l'tumah. However, it's a weird halacha, quote unquote. But if a zav doesn't touch it, but he just leans on something that's on it, it actually goes to a higher level of tumah, to an ava tumah. So Kumar would say, if you have this thing that a zav didn't touch directly, but leaned on something that was leaning on this becomes an ava tumah. If somebody touches it now, it becomes a rishon l'tumah. What happens if you take the 3 by 3 garment, which is fit to be leaned on, because a garment that's 3 by 3 is fit to be leaned on. As we'll see in a second, a garment that's smaller than 3 by 3 tvachim, 3 by 3 etzbos, is fit to be used as a patch, not fit to be leaned on. But a 3 by 3 tefach garment is fit to be leaned on. What happens if you take that garment and you cut it in half now? So now neither side is 3 by 3. Says the Gemara, according to everyone, it loses its tumas medris. But what happens? Let's go back for a second. When it was 3 by 3, and it had the tumas medris, what happened to it? Every particle in it had a tumas medris. Every single particle had a tumas medris. Not just that, every particle which was touching the particle next to it didn't just have a tumas medris. What was it doing? It was touching a tumas medris. It means it has one tuma al tumas medris, which is the highest form, ava tuma, But we could say that each particle in the garment had another form, because we'll see in a second is clearly learning that concealed Touma travels in the actual garment. Let's imagine that this entire thing is Tumas Medris, right? Ava Touma. This particle here and this particle here are right next to each other. So this particle is touching Tumas Medris. So not only is it Tameh because there's a Zav that's leaning on something which is leaning on this, so this particle has Tumas Medris to it, which is an Ava Touma. It also has Rishon L'Touma because it's touching something that had become Tameh through Tumas Medris. It would be the equivalent of me touching a garment that had been Tameh by Tumas Medris, and I'll become a Rishon L'Touma. So each particle has an Ava Touma to it and a Rishon L'Touma. What's the nafkamina? Who cares? Because when you cut the garment in half now, it loses its Ava Touma aspect, but it keeps its Rishon L'Touma aspect. But again, the only reason that each particle was a Rishon L'Touma is because even though it was concealed in the garment itself, we assume that each particle of the garment was touching the particle next to it. Therefore, concealed Touma travels even within a particle, and therefore, even though when I cut it, each one of the particles loses its Tumas Medris because the garment's no longer 3 by 3, so it sort of loses its Tumas Medris, but it keeps its Tumas Maga as if a Zava touched it, because again, it was touching the particle next to it, which had been Tumas Medris, the equivalent of me touching a garment that has Tumas Medris. Again, the details are not so important. Of course they're important, but it's complicated. But the point is that you clearly see that there's some type of Tumah traveling within the garment, which we said is Tumas Beis Hastarim. Therefore, now I can understand why both according to Rebbe Meir and the Chachamim, even though they hold that the Tumah of the limb that's protruding is a different Tumah, whether it's Nabila / Ever Menachai, or whether it's Tumah Streifa, whatever it is, we understand how it could travel to the rest of the fetus, which is still in the body. Why? Because it could travel to the rest of the fetus, because at the end of the day, it's connected underground in the skin, it's connected. Now, it doesn't travel to the rest of the body while it's in the mother. That's why we said the cases where it comes out, then you cut off the limb. Not that at the point of contact, but basically it's traveling at the point of contact. Underneath the skin, it travels into the fetus. That's what the Gemara says. Whether you're learning like Rebbe Meir or the Chachamim in our Mishnah. So this says, the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi happens to argue with the second Rebbe Meir in that Bryce, and says, he doesn't hold to this idea that the Tumah travels in the Beis Hastarim. He holds that it's not going to be applicable. But again, we see the Rebbe Meir, and seemingly the Chachamim, there's two Rebbe Meirs. There's Rebbe Meir in that Bryce of Tumas Medris, and there's Rebbe Meir over here who says that a limb is a nevela. A limb that's sticking out is considered to be nevela as soon as you cut it off. So the Gemara says that it seems like both the Chachamim and Rebbe Meir in our Mishnah, which say that the limb passes some type of Tumah onto the fetus, both of them need to be holding like Rebbe Meir in that Brysa, in that Mishnah, who says that Tumah travels in Beis Hastarim. It travels when it's in hidden places, concealed places, and that's why over here, when you cut off this limb, it's going to travel in the concealed place, and it's going to make the fetus Tameh, either, again, depending how you hold. It says Mar Lavit Mar Allah. Amar Ula, you don't have to say that. You can say that Amar Ula, Loshanu el shlosha shenechlak. Aval shlosha abod mikbeged gadol bishas prishas me'avia Macabre Touma me'avihen hanan bishas prishas me'aver Macabre Touma me'aver. You don't have to say like Rabbi Meir over there. We thought that in order for the beged to be tameh, each part of the beged should be tameh, even when you cut it in half. You need to hold like Rabbi Meir that tumah travels in concealed places. Says the Gemara, that's not true. Maybe we're talking about the following case. It's not that you had a 3 by 3 tefach garment, you cut it in half, and now it loses its tumas medras because it's not big enough. You have a 10 by 10 garment, this huge Gemara. You cut it in half. Each half is now still what? Is still more than 3 by 3. Each half is still more than 3 by 3, so each one retains its tumas medras. Right? Each one retains its tumas medras, and that's why, again, that's why it's going to be tameh. But again, we assume that what? At the time of a separation, it's mekablas tumah. That at the time that it's separated from the bigger garment, that's when it becomes tameh. So again, just to simplify it, what we're saying here is that there's two ways to look. Again, you have an animal in a mother. Thing is protruding out. Shach the mother. Now you got this animal walking around. Part of it is usher because this part was protruding out when you shafted the mother. What's the status of this? Machlokes Rabbi Meir and Chachamim. Rabbi Meir says this thing is an Availa. Therefore, as we said in the Mishnah, if you cut it off, the entire thing becomes Availa because it's touching this part. According to the Chachamim, this is not an Availa, even though it's sticking out. It's what? We treat it as a treifa, and therefore it transmits Tumas treifa, which is only a Tumah derabanan. We originally thought that it's clear that according to both of them, the Tumah is traveling in concealed areas, because at the moment of the cut, it's in a concealed area it's traveling. This Gemara is learning that no, one can argue that it's not a concealed area, because as soon as you cut it off, right here, b'shas prishasan, it's not concealed anymore. It's therefore open. Therefore, at the last moment that it's open, it's not traveling in concealed area, but the Touma. So again, the Touma is definitely traveling. The argument is that according to some, it's traveling in a concealed fashion, because again, at the moment that you cut it off, we're assuming that it's still concealed, quote unquote. According to the other opinion, no, it's not concealed anymore. At the moment that you cut it off, it's open, and therefore you see that Touma can actually travel only in an open way, but not in a concealed way.
Is the rest of the fetus still in the mother?
What?
Is the rest of the fetus still in the mother?
No. So I'm saying, the fetus, if it's in the mother, then it cannot become Tame under any circumstances. The rest of the fetus is not in the mother, else it can't become tummy. That was the first case in the Mishnah. The case here is clearly where, again, you shach the mother, the ben pakua comes out, but at the time that you shechted the mother, the limb was sticking out. Therefore, that limb cannot be eaten. We said now that limb is either tame nevela or tame what? It's either tame nevela or tame treifa, but it can't pass that tuma, quote unquote, until it's actually separated from the mother. And the question becomes, unless it's separated from the kid, from the fetus, the question becomes, how is it transmitting the tumah? We originally thought of transmitting it in a concealed fashion, and now we're just saying you can explain it that it's transmitting it even not a concealed fashion, because at the very point of the cut, that's basically the machlokas. When you cut it, is that considered to be concealed, where it then travels in a concealed fashion, or at the point of the cut, is that considered to be open, and therefore everybody would agree that tumah travels in an open fashion.
Put a blanket on top of it?
That's not concealed.
Talking about a tentvach, isn't it talking about that when you rip it, it loses the 3 by 3 tvachim, but it still has 3 by 3 etzba size, and the etzba size is still Mitama. It's large enough to Mitama each other, so it loses the original of, because it's no longer.
Shalosh, I'm sorry, saying shalosh. Yeah, it's talking about its bows, correct. Yeah. But again, I didn't want to concentrate on that because that's already too much Tumah and Tara. Ravina Amar Beged Lav L'Chaticha Kai. Ravina says, no. You can explain the difference. Even if you explain that over there by the Beged, it's working through concealed Tuma, you can say that it's different. Beged, lav l'chaticha kai, uber l'chaticha kai. Therefore, what? V'chola omed lachtoch kichatov dami. Again, so now we're on the next DAF. So we're just trying to figure out what? We're trying to figure out again. Everybody agrees that a fetus acquires some form of Tuma from the limb when you cut it. Right? So we assume that what? We assume that the contact between the limb and the fetus was in the base hasidarim, was beneath the skin. So what does Ula say? Ula says no, because when you separate the limb, it's no longer a separation in a concealed area, it's a separation in a non-concealed area. Ravina comes along and says different. Since it stands to be separated, why does this limb stand to be separated? This limb that was protruding at the time of the mother's Schita stands to be separated because it's usher to eat. Since it stands to be separated, it says if it was already separated, something that's already separated is not considered to be concealed. Something that's already separated is considered to be open and not concealed. Says the Gemara, come on, who's this like? Rebbe Meir did not call Yados Kalam Shein Arukos, V'ati Lakatz and Mat Bilad Makom Mida, Diver Rebbe Meir, V'chachamim Om Rachiyat Bilas Kulo. We see that it's not really Rebbe Meir and Chacham. This is a separate point. Again, just to chazer. We said that this limb which gets cut off is definitely going to pass the Tomba, Bein Rebbe Meir, Bein the Chachamim. What kind of Tomba it's going to pass is one thing. We thought by definition if it's going to pass Tomba, it means it's passing Tomba in a concealed area, which we didn't like to say because we seem to say that there's definitely opinions that say that you can't pass Tomba through a concealed area. Therefore, come along, Ula and Ravina give two different ways to say that it's not through a concealed area. First of all, when you cut off the arm, Lamaisa, at that point of the cut, it's no longer concealed. Therefore, everyone can agree that Tomba passes, it's no longer concealed. Another way of learning is Ravina, who says that very interestingly, when this animal comes out and it was protruding from the mother beforehand, this thing is usher to eat. Because again, it was protruding from the mother at the time that you shechted the mother. Since it was usher to eat, it's looked at as something that is fit to be cut off. Ha'omed lachtoch. Something that's omed lachtoch, kechatoch dami. Is already like it's gone before you even did it. If it's already like it's gone, then right now, even before you've cut it off, it's what? It's already like it's gone, therefore it's revealed. Therefore, when you actually do cut it off, you're cutting off from a revealed place, not in a hidden place, and therefore the tumah can travel to the fetus. And Gemara's going to ask in just a second, well, if it's already like it's cut off, so why doesn't the fetus become tamei right away? Why do you have to wait till you cut it off in order to make it tamei? We'll see that in 1 second. But those are the two ways of understanding how it's passing through a revealed place. Again, it's not easy, I'm making it sound simple. But it's passing through a revealed place and not through a concealed place. Says the Gemara, Lavit mar Allah mar ula lo shano la. Ravina mar beged fine. Says the Gemara, come on, Rebbe Meir. You just bring another Bryce now that's proving this idea that something that's fit to be cut off is already cut off. You see elsewhere it did not. It says in the Mishnah, Kol yados hakelim shein aruchos ve'ati lekatz and mat bilad makom mida. This is Rebbe Meir and the Chachamim. Rebbe Yehuda merat sheyat bilas kulo. You have a case there where you have a tamei vessel and you have to go ahead and you have to dunk it in the mikvah. So Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim seem to hold to this as well, say that if you plan on cutting off the edge of the handle, let's say the handle is very long, and you want to cut off part of the handle, ha'omed laksos katzutz dami. If you're going to cut it off anyway, it's as if it's not there, and therefore when you tovel it, you don't have to tovel the entire thing, you can just tovel the part that you don't plan on cutting off. So therefore you see what? Clearly if something's going to be cut off, it's as if it's already cut off, or else you'd have to tovel the whole thing, because right now it's all part of one vessel. The fact that it's going to be cut off is as if it's already cut off, therefore you only have to tovel the vessel that you plan on keeping. Therefore you see again that a limb that's going to be cut off, because you can't eat it, is already as if it's cut off, and therefore if it's already as if it's cut off, then you can say that when you actually cut it off, it's considered to be non-concealed, and the Touma can travel. Says Kumar, afilu tema rabbanan, chibur Oakland command mefarte dami unegie ba'adadi. The Gemara just says that even if you hold that something that is going to be cut off is not as if it's cut off, you would say that that's by a utensil. That's why there's another opinion by utensil that you still have to go ahead and you have to tovel the entire thing. But over here by food, which is considering the arm to be food because it's Macabre Touma, by food lamaisa everyone would agree kola ome lixos kikatzutz dami. 1 second. Says in Gemara, bishlama leula. This is all according to Ula, who says what? That at the point of separation it's not going to be concealed. That was the first reason that it passes the Touma because it's not concealed. The other reason is that if it's going to come off, it's as if it's already off. Says in Gemara, bishlama leula hainu diktani chadcha. That's why the Mishnah needs to say that you go ahead and now you cut off the arm. At the point that you cut it off, the Touma travels. But if you say what? Ela l'ravina, if you say l'ravina mai chadcha, what's the purpose of saying that you have to cut off the limb? L'maisa, if it's going to be cut off, then again, why is it going to be cut off? I.e., it's not able to be eaten. It's usher to eat. Therefore, it's as if it's already cut off. Why do you have to say it's cut off? I did tani reisha chadcha tananami seifa chadcha. So again, it comes out very, very interestingly. Just the chazer 100 times. You have an animal inside of a mother. It sticks out its arm. That limb is definitely not going to be able to be eaten, 100%. The question is, now that you shech the mother, what's the status of that limb? According to Rabbi Meir, he's more machmir, that limb is forever going to be considered an Availa. As soon as it's cut off, it's going to pass the Touma from that arm, which is an Availa. Again, until it's cut off, it can't pass the Touma. As soon as it's cut off, it's going to pass the arm, well, we'll see in a second, according to many. It's going to pass that Touma into the animal, and now the whole thing becomes Touma and Availa. According to the Chachamim, that arm, even though Lamaise can't be eaten, when you shech the mother, it takes it down a step. It's no longer an Availa, it's considered to be a treifa, which we know is not Mitama on a D'oraisa level. Comes along Ula and says, it's not working on a concealed level. You can explain that it means that at the point of the cut, it's now no longer concealed, and the Touma is passing through. Again, according to Rebbe, it's passing through Nevela to this rest of the fetus. According to the Chacham, it's passing through Treifa to the rest of the fetus. There's only a Tumah d'Rabbanan. According to Ravina, it's very fascinating. Ravina says that since it was sticking out at the time that you shechted the mother, and it's usher to be eaten, it's already as if it came off. If it's as if it already came off, then depending who you hold like, at that point, even before you cut it off, the rest of the fetus is going to be Tameh. Either going to be Tameh D'oraisa, as an Availa according to Rebbe Meir, or it's going to be Tameh D'Rabbanan, as a Treifa according to the Chachamim, even before you cut off the actual piece. Very interesting, yes?
I just come back to my question about, isn't the fetus still in the mother?
Again, we're not dealing with the case of fetus in the mother. We're dealing with the case of the fetus is outside of the mother.
If we said
you shaft the mother and you take the fetus out, and now it's walking around. And it has a limb. That's the second case in the Mishnah.
Ah, okay.
If it was in the mother, it cannot become tamei while it's in the mother.
Okay, so you've taken it out.
You've taken it out. And then you cut off the arm. Says Gemara, v'chachamim omer, maga treifa shchuta. Again, the chachamim said that what? That a limb is considered to be a treifa if it was sticking out, not an avela. Treifa shchuta mi metamya. A treifa animal that's slaughtered doesn't transmit tuma. That we should consider it again something that touched tuma. And kidavur d'shmuel, damar vur d'shmuel, treifa shashafta metama b'kachin. Again, a treifa animal is not tamei d'oraisa, but a treifa after you shach. The regular animal, that's a treifa that you shach. We said it doesn't become an avela. When you touch it, you don't become tamei. You do become tamei on a d'Rabbanan level. So therefore, according to the chachamim, what it's passing on, the limb is passing on tuma d'Rabbanan to the fetus.
If you could cut off inside the fetus or inside the mother. Cut it off.
We had that case. If you cut off the fetus inside the mother and then you shech the mother, then the fetus part that you cut off is allowed to be eaten.
That's right.
Okay.
That's what we said. We're dealing with a case now where you cut off. But again, that wasn't your question, because your question, that's the fetus inside the mother.
Yes.
With all the parts inside the mother. If you cut off a piece of the arm while the rest of the fetus is in the mother and you cut off the arm, then that's no longer able to be eaten, but the rest of the fetus can be eaten. Now we're dealing with a fetus that was outside the mother and you cut off the arm. Now the rest of the fetus becomes tamei. Says the Gemara, Ma matzina b'treva sheshchitasa mitarasa. The Schita purifies it. Again, av Schita's be'ema tetarasa aver. So too, the Schita of the mother should purify the limb. Again, we had a machlokes, because according to the Chachamim, Since what? Since you're shechting the mother. Again, you're shechting the mother, and you have an arm that's protruding out of the mother at the time of the Schita. So the question is, we know that when you shech the mother, it lets you eat the baby, the fetus, if the entire fetus was inside the mother. If it's dead or alive, it doesn't matter. But now that the arm is protruding out, so the Chachamim want to say, well, even though the Schita of the mother cannot let you eat the part of the animal that's sticking out, it could at least lower, it could still accomplish the fact that it's going to make it and take it out of the category of nevela and put it into the category of treifa. Says Rebbe Meir, that's ridiculous. It's not allowing it to be eaten since it's sticking out. It's not going to be able to take it out of the category of nevela either, and therefore that protruding limb is going to be a nevela. Says the Gemara Tanya, we have the discussion of what this back and forth is. Amalan Rebbe Meir, what would take this aver away from being a nevela? The shachting of the mother, if the aver was inside of the mother. So memanashach, if you want to say that even though the limb is not inside the mother, we're going to knock it down and say it's still not going to be an Availa, so then go all out and say, so then you can still eat it, even though it wasn't in the mother at the time of the Schita. Clearly we don't say that. If we're not going to say that you can eat it when it was out of the mother, we're not going to say that the mother's Schita saves it from being an Availa. But he says we have precedent that there are times where the mother is going to be able to save something that's not it more than saving itself. What's an example? We have a precedent that we just said, the question you just asked, that if you cut off part of a fetus which is inside of a mother and it stays inside the mother, then you shech the mother, you can eat that part of the fetus. And yet we said if you cut off part of the mother itself, i.e. the kidneys or the spleen, and then you shech the mother, you can't eat the kidneys or spleen that were cut off before the animal was shechted. Therefore you see that the Schita of a mother can actually go ahead and accomplish things for other beings that it can't accomplish even for itself. Therefore, it's not so crazy to suggest that when you shech the mother, it can go ahead and even though it's not going to allow you to eat the limb that's protruding at the time of the Schita, it'll allow you to knock it down from being an Availa to being a treifa. Says the Gemara, Maika Amar, what does he mean to say? Amar Rava, Rebbe Meir keeps arguing if this protruding limb was out at the time that you shechted the mother, what's keeping it from being an avela? It should be like any other, again, once it's cut off, it should be like any other animal that's dead, which is an avela, as opposed to a treifa, which you shechted the actual animal. The fact you're arguing, Rebbe Meir, that if the mother Schita doesn't make it mutter to eat, then it can't by definition knock it down and make it only a treifa. Says Kumar, what are you talking about? That's exactly every single time you shech the treifa. Again, just get the klalim. Every time you shech the treifa animal, we said what? You shech the non-kosher animal, you do a regular shechita on a non-kosher animal, it's a nevela. You touch it, you're tamei nevela midaraisa. You shech the treifa, we said, even though you can't eat it, it's still not going to be mitame deraisa as a treifa. Says Kumar, you see every single time that you shech the treifa, you're shechting it, you can't eat it, but it still gets rid of the tumas nevela. So why is it any different here? You shech the mother, it doesn't let you eat the protruding limb because it was out at the time you shechted the mother, but why should that limit it from being able to say that it's no longer going to be an avela? Says in Gemara, Amarlan Rebbe Meir said to them, Lo, im tira shchitas treifa osa davar shigufa. No, I understand when I shech the treifa, well, even though I can't eat it, it's not going to become an avela because I'm shechting the actual thing that I'm now taking away the status of nevela from, but over here I'm shechting the mother and taking away the status of something else, which is not the mother, the limb that's protruding out. Says the Gemara, Amar Lancer, Rebbe Meir says, Lo, im tira shchitas treifa osa davar sheigufa. I understand. Tatar is ha'ever davar she'eno gufa. That's where the sages reply back to Nacham and say, Amar lo. Well, we see that we have precedent that the mother can accomplish something for other people that it can't accomplish for itself. That it can't, again, with the kidney and the spleen, but it can still accomplish for a child something else. And therefore, again, you can say that so too, it can accomplish the fact that even though it's not shechting the treifa and making that into a treifa as opposed to an avela, you're shechting the mother, it can still make the protruding limb into a treifa, not an avela. Says the Gemara, davar she'igufa tatar is ha'ever davar she'eno gufa. Says the Gemara, Amrulo Rabbi Matzal Sal She'eno Gufa Yotem Migufa Sharishanin Chotim Minu Bershmeha Ba'achila Mutar Ba'achila Minat Chol Minat Kloyos Aser Ba'achila Tana Mihachi Baruch Hashem. Another Bryce that repeats this. Amar Lehen Rabbi Meir Chimi Tar El Le'ever Zeh Midei Nevela Amrulo Schita Sihimo Keita Drene Ba'achila Amrulo Treifa Tochia Shechata Mitaras Midei Nevela Ve'ena Matarasa Ba'achila Amar Lehen Im Tira Schita Treifa Osav Es Ever Amidul Dalba Davar shebegufa tataras ha'uber she'eno gufa. Amar lo Rabbi Matzal Sal she'eno gufa yotem migufa shreishenu nechotim min uber shemeyaha mutar ba'achila min ha'tchol min ha'klayos aser ba'achila. So again, this is the entire daf in one word that Lamaisa, Rebbe Meir, and the Chachamim argue. Again, there's two steps here. There's what's the status of the protruding limb, and then how does that status then transfer itself? So the baby is in the mother, the limb is protruding. You shach the mother, the baby comes out, then you go ahead and you cut off the aver. So there's two things. The first thing you have to establish is what's the status of that limb,
Right.
which was protruding at the time you shafted the mother. Once you establish that, however you're going to learn in Lamdus, that is then going to pass Touma to the rest of the fetus when you cut it off, or according to Ravina, before you cut it off if it's meant to be cut off. But we have to establish what that is. Because if that's only a treifa, then it's passing on treifa status. Well, treifa status is not really
Rabbinic.
Touma status. That's rabbinic at most, and that only applies to a consecrated animal, and that's not real Touma. If this is nevela, because it was sticking out at the time you shafted the mother, then as soon as, again, until you cut it off, it's still considered to be part of the fetus, but as soon as you cut it off, Lamaisa, it's going to make the entire fetus into a nevela. Whether that's going to be through conceal, through open, that's a separate thing. But the machlokas, Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim in our Mishnah, is whether you treat this as a treifa or as a nevela. Rabbi Meir says, ridiculous, why should you treat it as a treifa? It's an avela. It was sticking out. It's not part of the mother. The fact that you shach the mother, you can't make this into a treifa. Says the Chachamim, what are you talking about? Even though the mother's Schita cannot allow this to be eaten because it was protruding, it could still accomplish being able to make this into a treifa. But again, we have the general klalim over here. But in this last Bryce, which we quickly read, because again, it was a repetition, it added one other prat, which the Kumar is now going to take on a tangential discussion. It discussed a limb. It discussed a limb that was what? A limb that was dangling from an animal. You have a regular live animal. We're done with fetuses for now. Make it a little bit easier, or a little bit harder. We have a regular live animal that has a dangling limb. So forget about a limb that was sticking out. A dangling limb. Dangling limb clearly is still attached to the body. Or maybe it's not. What's the status of that limb? So the animal's still alive, walking around. So what's the status of that limb? Is it alive? Is it dead? If it's dead, well, it can't be dead because then it can't be Mitama the rest of the animal because the animal's still alive. Mm-hmm. So what's the status of that dangling limb? Says the Gemara, Amar Reish Lakish, Rabbi Shimon Reish Lakish says, Machlokes be'uvarin, kach machlokes be'varin. Just like Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim argue by the fetus that sticks out its leg or its hand, there's a machlokes whether you treat that hand as nevela or treifa. So too there's a machlokes, how do you treat the arm, the dangling arm of a live animal once what? Seemingly once the animal is shachted. Let's see. Therefore, kach machlokes be'varim, regarding limbs that are dangling, whether they're purified by the Schita. Again, if you have a dangling limb, so there's here, it's going to be a little bit of a different machlokes. It's not whether it's a treifa or whether it's a treifa or whether it's a nevela. The question is it considered to be part of the animal or not? What's the nafkamina? There's a huge nafkamina. If the dangling limb is like any other limb, it just happens to be a little bit out of place because it's dangling, because it's falling off. If it's like any other limb, then you shach the mother. What happens to that limb? It's like any other limb. You can eat it. It's not Macabre Touma. It's not an Availa. It's fine. But if the dangling limb is already as if it's off the body, then what is it in essence? No. Close.
It's still part of its body.
If it's part of the body, but as if halachically off the body, what do we consider that? If something falls off of a body while the animal's alive? Aver min achai.
Oh.
The animal's alive.
Right.
You have a dangling bard.
Right.
If you consider it to be part of the body, then it's like any other part of the body. If you consider it to be not part of the body, then it fell off while the animal's still alive. It's Aver min achai. We mentioned, and again, this is where it's getting a little bit complicated. You have to chaz, I won't be able to get into it all. But we mentioned that Aver min achai and nevela are very similar, with one exception. If I go out and I have a nevela that just drops dead and I touch it, I'm tamei. If I rip off a part of that nevela and I go around into the shear and I touch everybody with that nevela, you're all tamei. If I take an Aver min achai, I rip it off of an animal. I rip a leg off of a chicken, and I go around and I touch you, you're tamei just like if I touch you with a nevela. There's one exception. If I rip an Aver min achai, that's only be able to mitame people if it has the limb and the bone and the sinews and the meat and everything together. If I pull off a piece of meat from a nevela without the bone, I go over to nevela and I pull off a piece of skin or a piece of beef, a piece of flesh, and I go in and I touch you, you're tamei just as if I touch you with the entire nevela. But the exception is if I pull off a piece of flesh from Aver min hachai, that piece of flesh cannot be mitame other people. That's the only difference. A piece of flesh from nevela can be mitame a person just like the nevela itself, the entire nevela. A piece of flesh, even though the Aver min hachai itself, the actual Aver with the limb and the bones and everything can be mitame you, a piece of flesh from the Aver min hachai cannot be mitame you.
So a piece of bone.
So the question, a piece of bone from the Aver min hachai is mitame you. We know we have a case, all the case, that's the bone. So the question again becomes, is this dangling arm considered to be part of the person or part of the animal? Therefore when you shacht it, it can be eaten, it's not going to be Macabre Touma, it's not nevela at all. Or is it going to be in the category of Aver min hachai / nevela, again with this very small difference, which we'll talk about a little bit, but is it going to be in the category of Nevela because it's already off? It's like Ever Menachai, and therefore, even when you shech the mother, the Schita is not going to accomplish anything because if it was already gone, it's already considered to be Nevela / Ever Menachai before you shech the mother. That's going to be the discussion. So Reish Lakish says, just like Rabbi Meir and the Chamim argued in the case where the animal had stuck out its hand before you shechted the mother, one of them said that it's what? One of them said that it's considered to be treifa, one of them said that the limb is considered to be a nevela. So too they argue over here, that the Chachamim are not going to say treifa versus nevela, the Chachamim are going to be more mekel, and they're going to say that what? That it's not going to be nevela, it's going to be seemingly, let's see, at this point we're going to assume that it's going to be treifa as well, or he said it's going to be a nevela. We're going to see in a second that Rabbi Yochanan argues. Rabbi Yochanan amar machlokes be'ever de ubar. They only argue by the case of ubar dura. Val be'ever de be'emer divra kol schita osanipol. Even the Chachamim say that it does not purify it from nevela. So again, at this point, a little different than I explained, but at this point, the question is, will the Schita allow the dangling limb to still be, is the Schita going to accomplish anything, and the dangling limb will no longer be nevela? It'll be either treifa or it'll be okay. Or is it going to still be considered to be nevela because it already fell off? I'm Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina. My time Rabbi Yochanan aliva de Rabbanan. What's the reason Rabbi Yochanan hai islay takanta bechazara v'hai leslay takanta bechazara? Why should there be a nafkamina? According to Rabbi Yochanan, why should there be a difference? According to Rabbi Yochanan, the Chachamim say in the case where an animal is sticking out its limb from the mother's right? When the fetus is sticking out the limb, what happens according to the Chachamim? That's considered to be what? That's considered to be a treifa. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, they agree that in the case of the dangling limb, it's as if it already fell off and it's considered to be a nevela. Why should there be a difference between the case of the animal and the case in the fetus and the case of over here with the dangling limb? Because he says, Hai islay takanta bechazara. Because that case, next page, bottom of this page, this case is what? This has chazara. Rabbi Yochanan's the Monomer who holds that if a baby puts out its limb and brings it back in, it could then be eaten. We said that's not the mainstream opinion. Once it's out, it's gone. But Rabbi Yochanan is the one who holds once it's out, it can still come back in and still be mutter to eat. Therefore, he's going to be a little bit more mekel the chachamim that if it stays out, we're going to allow it to not be an avela, to be a treifa. But here, where there's no such thing as fixing it, it's already dangling, you're not going to be able to fix it at all. Yes. That's why it's called dangling. In that case, Lamaisa is considered to already been separated. It's an avela, Ever Menachai, and therefore even when you shech the mother, you can't accomplish anything. Says Gemara, Meisvei Amar Lam Rabbi Meir Lo Im Tiyara Schita Streifo Savia Ever Hamedul Daba Davar Shegufa Tatara Ubar Davar She'ena Gufa. Rabbi Meir explicitly states that Schita can actually go ahead and purify a dangling limb because at the end of the day, we assume that a dangling limb is not separated from the body. So what are you tining that even the Chachamim agree? So you have two opinions now. You have one opinion which says, again, we have a machlokas clearly by the fetus sticking out the mother, sticking out its arm, either it's an avelo or a tray for the arm. Now we have a machlokas here. According to Reish Lakish, it's the same machlokas here, where Rabbi Meir says that the arm that's falling off is considered to be nevela. It's already as if it's off. And the Chachamim say no, it's as if it's part of the body. Again, for separate reasons, they say it's a treifa, but for our purposes, they assume that it's not, that's a treifa / it's still part of the body. Therefore, when you do the Schita, everything will be fine. That's okay. It's the same machlokas that you have over there. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's not the same machlokas. Even the Chachamim who over there were mekil are going to be machmir over here. They were makel over there because the person because the animal could always pull its leg back in. Yeah. But over here, they're going to be machmer and say, like the Rebbe Meir, that what? If you have a dangling arm, lamaisa, it's going to be tamei nevela. Says the Gemara, there's a little bit of a problem. Bishlam Reish Lakish. According to Reish Lakish, it's fine. The first opinion where you have the machlokes here as well. L'divrei ka'amar lahu, l'didi loshna ever de ubar v'loshna ever de behema ki adadi ninu el Rabbi Yochanan kashi. What's the problem? The problem is that we just said, according to Reish Lakish, you have what? According to Reish Lakish, the machlokes here is the same machlokes by a fetus that sticks out its arm. Therefore what? Rabbi Meir over here holds that what? If a fetus sticks out its arm, it's going to be a nevela. So too a dangling arm is going to be a nevela. And over there, Chachamim say, just like if a fetus sticks out its arm, it's only going to be a tray for the arm. So too over here, if you have a dangling arm, it's only a tray for / it's okay. But we have another Bryce that clearly says that Rabbi Meir holds that a dangling arm is okay. How could that be, according to you, Reish Lakish? You just said that Rabbi Meir says that what? That a dangling arm is not okay, it's nevela. Says the Gemara, within Rabbi Yochanan we're okay. Why? Because you can just taina that Rabbi Meir is speaking within the Chachamim's opinion. And since the Chachamim are of the opinion that what? That a dangling arm is going to be okay, when Rabbi Meir said a dangling arm is going to be okay, he said, according to you, a dangling arm is going to be okay. Problem is, according to Rabbi Yochanan, what does he say? He says that by a dangling arm, everybody agrees that what? that it's not okay.
It's worse.
That it's an Availa. So how can you go ahead and have another Bryce that says, Rabbi Meir says a dangling arm is okay? You can't even say within Rabbi Yochanan that Rabbi Meir is speaking within the Chachamim because nobody holds that a dangling arm is okay. Says the Gemara, I know it's complicated, I'm trying. Says the Gemara, Eli Idmar Hachi Idmar, Amrei Shlagish Machlokas Beubarim Kamachlokas Beivarin, Rabbi Yochanan Machlokas Beivar de Ubar, Aval Beivar de Behema, Divra Kol Ein Schita Osanipo. Ah, so now we have the opposite. Reish Lakish stays the same. He holds that what? The machlokas is the same by both. You have a fetus sticking out its arm, there's a machlokas. Is that a treifa, the arm? And then again it passes on. Is that a treifa, is that an avela? You have the same machlokas here. A dangling arm, is that a treifa or is that an avela? Again, here the way we're explaining treifa is that it's going to be totally fine. How do you tell me that Rabbi Meir holds that a dangling arm is an avela, and yet you see clearly a Bryce that says a dangling arm is okay? Rabbi Meir was speaking within the Chachamim saying you hold that a dangling arm is okay. Fine, that's Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan originally we thought says what? Even the Chachamim, everybody agrees that a dangling arm is a problem. How can Rabbi Meir go ahead and say a dangling arm is okay? He can't say, oh, he's speaking within the Chachamim, because according to you, even the Chachamim hold the dangling arm is a problem. You're right, we switch around the opinions. We don't think that everyone holds a dangling arm is a problem. We think, according to Rabbi Yochanan, everybody holds a dangling arm is actually okay. So over here, it's not Chachamim that are being machmir, it's Rabbi Meir that's being mekil. So it comes out according to Rabbi Yochanan, even though by a fetus there's a machlokas, whether the arm that's sticking out is a treifa or an avela, according to Rabbi Yochanan, everyone agrees that by the dangling arm, it's considered to still be part of the body, since it's still on the body, and therefore when you do schita of that animal, the dangling arm is like any other part of the body, and therefore it's totally mutter and going to be totally tahor. And that's what Rabbi Meir was saying when he says the dangling arm is okay, because even he agrees that the dangling arm is okay. But that's the machlokas, by dangling arm, whether it's okay or whether it's not okay. Hakomodim, make it a little bit more complicated. Hakomodim shemisa osa nipol vein shchita osa nipol. I'm going to run through this a little bit quickly again because it gets more complicated, but try to chazer this part. But I'm just going to give you the basic idea. That according to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Rabbi Yochanan, again, according to Rabbi Yochanan, we just said that everybody agrees, both Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim, everybody agrees that if you have a dangling arm, if you do shchita on that animal with a dangling arm, Rabbi Yochanan says everybody agrees it's a regular shchita, and even the part that was dangling can be eaten, is not going to be Mitama and everything. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that what? Ain't shchita osa nipol. Again, osa nipol means that's a bad thing. If you say that shchita is osa nipol, that's a bad thing. Ein shchita osa nipol means that shchita does not affect illegal detachment, therefore it's considered to be part. So that's only by shchita. We're adding one more layer. You, Rabbi Yochanan, who just said that if you shecht an animal with a dangling arm, it does perfect shchita. Now it's the whole thing is kosher and enjoy it and eat it and they're not going to be tameh. That's only when you shecht the animal. But let's say the animal with the dangling arm drops dead. So what's going to be the halacha? The whole thing's in Availa. You might have thought, though, that what? You might have thought that if the dangling arm is already separate, what's the nafkamina going to be? The nafkamina is going to be that, again, if you shecht it with the dangling arm, it's perfectly good to go. What happens if a dangling arm drops dead? What do you mean? What's the question? It's an Availa. You're right. But you might have had a havmina that what? That if the dangling arm was already gone, which you didn't say it was, but you might have havmina that if the dangling arm is gone already, it might actually end up in a kula in this case. If you assume the dangling arm was gone, in the case of shchita, it's going to be a chumrah, because it's already off. It's aver min achai. It's going to be metame if you touch somebody. Now, the fact that you shech the animal is not going to help you. That would have been a chumrah. So we said the dangling arm is part of the animal, therefore when you shech the animal, it's good to go. But if you hold that what? That the dangling arm is not part of the animal, then in the case where it drops dead, it actually ends up in a kula. Why? Because if it was part of the animal and the animal drops dead, the dangling arm is like the rest of the body, just like it would have been by shchita, and the entire thing's in Availa. But if you assume that it came off before it dropped dead, because it was dangling, what is it? It's Aver min achai, non-Availa. Then it has the one kula, where if you would pull a piece of flesh off of it and then touch other people, that would not be Mitama other people. Yeah. That's just, again, the one kula that would come out. It's a good svar. Yeah. That's what the Gemara says. So the Gemara says what? Everybody agrees that no, misa osanipol. That means what? Everybody agrees that if it dies naturally, then the limb is actually aver min achai. We're going to be mekil. We're going to assume that it was off beforehand, and therefore, even though the rest of the animal is going to be an Availa, and it's going to have this chumrah that no matter what you touch or whatever you pull off and you touch people, they're all going to be tameh. this dangling arm is actually going to be. So we're like having our cake and eating it
you can't have
too.
it both ways.
We're making the dangling arm, well, it depends what you do to the animal. If you shech the animal, then we'll be making, let's say, okay, the dangling part was part of the animal, and you can go ahead and you can treat it and eat it like everything else. If it ends up dying naturally or just drops dead or gets shot, then we're going to be making, let's say the dangling part is not part of the animal, and you can treat it as Ever Minachai, which has that one kula with the flesh. Says the Gemara, lima be'ever de'ubar b'mifla kligi ela be'ever de'behema. No, we're dealing with a dangling arm. Says the Gemara, just two quick things. Misa tanina, Schita tanina. What do you need this chiddush for? You just gave me a chiddush that we're going to treat the dangling arm depending on what happens to the animal. If it dies, we're going to treat it as if it was already separated. It'll be Ever Minachai and not Nevela. If it gets shechted, then we're going to treat it as well. We're going to treat it as part of the animal. What do we need that for? We have two Bryces that already say the same exact thing. Misa tanina, we already have a Bryce that tells you that if it naturally dies, then it's as if the animal already lost its arm and it's Ever Minachai and not Nevela. Where do we see that? Did not, like it says, Mesa habehema, if it dies, habasar sarich hechsher, v'ha'ever mitame mishum ever min hachai, v'eno mitame mishum ever min anavela, div Rabbi Meir clearly holds that Rabbi Meir says that if an animal drops dead, then the dangling arm is ever min hachai and not nevela. So therefore, what do you need to repeat it again over here? Says Gemara, Schita nami tanina. We have another Mishnah that talks about Schita that says what? Nishchita behema, if an animal is slaughtered with a limb that's separate, which is dangling, hochshara b'dameha, it's going to be prepared by its, again, separate discussion of Toma, div Rabbi Meir, v'shimon omer, lo hochshara. But what do we see? We see that an animal Schita does what? An animal Schita keeps it tahor, and the only discussion now becomes, well, did the blood touch it or not? Says Gemara, Ime hi avamina, my hochshara basar, v'had hochshara ketani, ma'odetema chal levasar poresh mina behema, v'chal levasar poresh mina aver, etc. We don't have time to get into it. If you could just go ahead and you could just read the rest of this daf, this is going to start talking about the fact that if in fact, like you're saying, if in fact this object, if in fact the animal dies, just drops dead, and dies naturally, so then we consider it to be Ever Minachai, right? If in fact you shecht it, now we said it's what? It's regular Schita. The Bryce over there brings in this whole other idea of what happens if it's tahor. If it's tahor, then how does it become a Cobble Touma? Like anything, how does something become a Cobble Touma? If you want something to be a Cobble Touma, what do you have to do first to it? If I have an object and I want it to
Wet
be...
it.
You have to wet it. So the whole discussion here, the Gemara is going to talk a little bit about if you shecht it, which you're now telling me that if you shecht it with a dangling arm, the entire thing is kosher. The question becomes, does the blood that comes out during the Schita, does that count as wetting the aver, as wetting the limb or wetting the flesh, so that now if it touches something that's Toma, it's wet because it got wet from its blood during the Schita? Or is it not considered to be wet because it has to become wet from something else? Again, I'm going to tell Rabbi Diana to pick up tomorrow on Ayin Dalim and Aleph on the top, but try to finish up the daf over here. I just want to get into it because it'll take forever.
Wet.